Well, as a nation mourns the loss of Ratan Tata, let's turn the clock back and celebrate his life and the person on this special show, Remembering Ratan. I have four individuals with me from totally different walks of life and stages as well, but have one common theme. They've had the privilege of working with and interacting with Ratan Tata. I have with me Bharat Puri, who's the MD of Pidilite. He's worked with Ratan Tata during his stint at Mondelez and also currently sits on the board of Tata Consumer. Sanjeev Kapoor, who we all know as the chef, has worked with the Tata Group on many projects and closely collaborated with Ratan Tata as well. We'll be joined by Ambi Parameswaran, who's a former ad man at FCB Ulka, has a lot of insight on his interaction with Ratan Tata at Tata Motors, a lot of the key launches, insightful stories that he'll bring as well. And we have with us Yash Kotak, who's the youngest in this panel right now, but the co-founder of Boheco. That's among the first few companies in which Ratan Tata had made a personal investment about 7 years ago. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for taking the time out for Ratan Tata. Let's remember Ratan. Mr. Puri, let's come to you first. You know, you've had an interesting intertwining of lives with Mr. Tata. First up, when you were at Mondelez, he was sitting on the Mondelez Global Board. And then now you at the Tata Consumer Board as well. Tell us about some of these anecdotes that you've had with him, some of the specific time that you've spent with him.
Thank you, Mangalam. Firstly, sad day. I mean, this is one of those days when you feel that a family member has passed away because he's just one of those Indians who make you proud to be an Indian.
Totally.
I was very fortunate. Mr. Tata was part of the Mondelez board. I think the chair lady of Mondelez, Irene Rosenfeld, and he were at Cornell together, and she therefore persuaded him to join the Mondelez board. Mondelez would have an annual board retreat in one of these lovely locations in the US. At one of the retreats, I think it was at Cape Cod, I was the lone Indian senior manager there at that retreat, and therefore I was given charge of looking after Mr. Tata when he was there. And it was, I must say, an absolute pleasure. I mean, two things really stood out. One, his humility, his gentlemanliness. I mean, he's just, he would wear his achievements, his title or his name very, very lightly and absolutely willing to give time at any point of time. The second was his concern for others. You know, I remember his turning to me and said, you people spend so much time discussing 0.5% of market share, but shouldn't you be discussing that, in emerging markets, can your confectionery be used to smuggle in vitamins, to smuggle in nutrition? You don't spend enough time discussing things like that. And, it was wonderful because you could see that he was different and he was somebody who was deeply concerned. And it left a great mark on me because here is somebody who is first and foremost concerned about others rather than worried about, just the company and its achievements. Right. And I was fortunate again to interact with him at Bombay House. I think the same qualities stand out. His courtesy, his humility, that old adage of, a fruit-laden tree, the more fruit it has, the more it bends. I mean, he embodied it.
Right. That's something that is a sentiment which has been echoed by everyone who's ever interacted with him, and a lot of people who haven't even interacted with him. Just the aura around him was of humility. You said you were entrusted with the duty of taking care of him. Was there anything specific that he required that you need to take care of him? And are there any stories that you have from there?
He was the easiest person to take off because he was thoroughly embarrassed. I would walk him to his, this place had these beautiful villas at Cape Cod, and I would walk him to the villa first. He would refuse to take any form. He would say, no, we'll walk. And he would be very embarrassed. Why you? I know I can find my way to the villa. I mean, I'll be there, then I'll be there to pick him up. And again, he would say, I'll reach the conference room, don't worry. But I said, Mr. Tata, it's a pleasure for me to spend these 10 minutes walking with you. So, I mean, please don't think that it's any hassle for me. It's just wonderful. I mean, we talked about the, unfortunate and very sad Bombay terror blasts and his handling of that with Taj and, the way he looked after Taj employees. I mean, those little walks will always remain, part of my fondest memories, Mangalam.
All right, we will talk about some of those as well and probably get you to share some of the business insights that he spoke with you as well. But we do have with us Sanjeev Kapoor. Now, we know Sanjeev as the chef, we know Sanjeev as the entrepreneur. But if you look at Ratan Tata's Instagram feed, what stands out is one, the last message that he had given to everyone who was watching. And the second one is a collaboration with you on a lot of these business and, charity projects. Sanjeev, your specific interactions with him and things that you took away.
Thank you. Indeed, a very sad day, as Bharat said. I think there are many things that are unsaid between him and I. I think those are more important to me. Those are things that I remember more, I would say. My first, I won't say interaction, but first time I saw him, I had just started doing TV, and this was, I think he had just become the chairman. This was in US Club. And I was struggling with my fame because I didn't really have money, but I was becoming famous. I didn't know how to deal with it. There were too many people who were telling me what to do, what not to do. And I was confused. People say, don't travel by auto, don't do this, wear this, drive in this car, do all of that. And one day, while I was trying to find answers, I saw Mr. Tata at US Club with a dog sitting. And he was the top guy, and there was no fuss, no confusion on who he was, what he had achieved, and he was in control without anyone around him. There was no security, there was no rush, there was nothing. And I was thinking to myself that, oh my God, why was I making too much of all of this, what was happening with me? Here is what you have to learn. So over the years, I have, I would say, learned so much from him. And in particular, I would say that four things that I have learned. Of course, humility is something I think right there. But I would say that trust is something which Tata's, for me, growing up, Tata's was a name, it was a family name. The only person that I put, the face that I put to that name was Mr. Ratan Tata. So to me, that became a trusted name. Humility, definitely that was there. And I would say that in terms of compassion, what we have seen is unparalleled. You talked about my collaboration. I would say that with Tata Group, I've had so many collaborations. My first ad was no brand ambassadorship. It wasn't the contract, it was appearing in an ad. It was for Tata Salt. Till date, I continue to be associated in many ventures, including joint ventures in some sense with Tata. So I've been fortunate. So I would say that I've been modeling my life quietly on what he has been showing the way to the world. And in me, there is, I would say that not just a follower, I feel like a son. He was almost my dad's age.
Well, I'm tempted to ask you, when was the last time you met him? And I'm sure you all would have discussed food at some point as well, because we had Rajiv Bajaj speak about, him removing the silver tray, and giving tea, some cake as well. What were those interactions like?
Actually, I would say that in terms of my association with him was not around the food. I was in so much of awe. It was never about food. It was not what I could give him. I was, I would say, selfish. It was what I could take away, all the precious moments that were there. And in fact, recently, a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, I spoke to my dear friend Puneet Chatwal, who had just met him, and he told me that how important it was for him, and how much he loved him. And I have never asked to meet anyone in my life that I want to meet this person. I actually told Puneet, I said, "मैं एक बार तेरे साथ चलता हूँ, Puneet." वो रह गया मेरा.
Wow, that's interesting. Mr. Puri, let's come back to you, because not only are you sitting on the board of Tata Consumer, you're sitting on the board of Tata Motors as well. And these two are companies which are, which were important to take India to the world. Tata consumer first up, largely because of the Tetley acquisition that they did in 2000, and thereafter Tata Motors, we all know the big, Jaguar Land Rover acquisition as well. What about his business insight did you pick up in the interactions that you've had with him?
I think, the wonderful thing was he spoke little, but when he spoke, you needed to listen because there was wonderful, clear insight. And I've always said, an insight is blindingly obvious until somebody else says it. Until then, it doesn't occur to you. His ability to see the big picture, look at and identify the critical issue and talk about just one or two of those issues and pick from his experience, again, was something at Mondelez, which actually, I must tell you, fascinated everybody. A lot of my colleagues with me at Mondelez had said that, listen, he speaks little, but when he does, you need to listen. And it tells you about the man. One of my colleagues wanted to persuade him, he was looking after Asia Pacific. He was an American. That, listen, Mr. Tata, the greatest thing would be if you came and did a town hall at Mondelez, India. And very tentatively, we approached him. Mr. Tata was just so generous. He said, yes, I will do it. And he actually came to Mondelez, India, and did a town hall with all of the employees because he was a board member of Mondelez Worldwide. I mean, that just tells you all about the man in just that one instance.
All right, we take that point. Just before we slip into a short break, I'll invite both Ambi and Yash as well. Ambi, of course, has worked on a lot of the, Tata Motors launches when he was the ad man at FCB Ulka. Ambi, just briefly, if you could tell us about your interaction with him. I remember that story of, him actually going down just before the launch of a car and talking specifically about a particular paint. You tell that really well.
Yeah, thank you. It's a sad day. For all of us. We've really lost a gem. So my interaction with him, I worked on the Tata Motors business for almost 20 years, and we launched the Tata Indica and then the Tata Indigo. And the story which I've written about in my book, Sponge, is about the launch of the Indigo Marina. The launch was in the evening at 7:30, and I get a call from my client, Mr. Krishnan, saying, look, Mr. Tata is going to NCPA, and can you be there? So I rushed and I went there and was waiting for him, and he came and he got out of his car and he went towards this so-called almost like an electroplated silver-looking car. So he went around it, and I was there, and there were two engineers that come from Pune who were also there, and then he called me, and he probably had seen me as one of the agency guys. So he asked me, what do you think about the car? What do you think about the color? And I went around it, and I told him, yeah, it's looking fine, looking great. And then he pointed to some little corner of the car and said, do you think this will be noticed? I said, no, nothing will be noticed. Then he asked me for the layout of how the show is going to happen. And I told him where the car will be parked. Why is the car? He asked me why is the park. So, after all that, he said thank you. And then he spent some time talking to the two engineers. And then he left. I was curious, saying, why did the chairman of such a large group drop everything and then come to check the color of the car at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon? And the engineers told me that, Mr. Tata had seen this kind of an electroplated looking car in one of his international, auto meets, and he wanted the engineers to try that. Apparently, they tried it. It didn't look good. So a month previous to the launch, he had told them, I don't think we know what we are doing. That's fine. This is something we have tried. It's not working. It's fine. But the engineers there were kind of relentless. They tried again, and they called him saying, look, we have the car. Can we use it for the launch? So he it's a curiosity, the joy of discovering something new. I think, as a CEO, it's something which one learned from him, that the curiosity, the learning mindset, how as the chairman of the group, he discovered something new, like an electroplated looking car. He came and briefed his engineers about it, and he encouraged them to try it out. And when they kind of failed, he said, fine, no problem, we will do something else. But then when they actually managed to do it well, he dropped everything. He dropped everything in his office, and he said, okay, I'm going to come and see this. And he came, saw this, put his hand. I mean, I could literally see the camaraderie among the chairman of India's largest group and an engineer working in the ERC, Engineering Research Center in Tata Motors, the kind of camaraderie they had. And he spent another 10 minutes talking to them. And they were very, very thrilled. So I said, look, this is what management gurus talk about, building a learning organization, and how from the top you show what I call the learning mindset, the curiosity mindset, and then you kind of drill it right through into the company. And I saw that in action, which is what I captured in my book, Sponge. Lessons I learned from my clients, and it's also part of a podcast I've done on that with Doshi. So I've had occasional meetings with him. My regular meetings were not with him, but these are the kind of occasions one really remembers and cherishes. That how the curiosity, learning is great. Yeah, thank you.
It's great indeed. What we'll do is fascinating stories. We'll take a short break, come back. We'll hear Yash's side of the story as well, because they literally cornered Ratan Tata into going ahead and investing in their company. So while we've spoken about his business acumen, we've spoken about his life and times, his humility, let's get in his investor's hat as well. Take a short break, come back, and we'll continue our chat. Welcome back. We're talking about the life and times of Ratan Tata in the special show, Remembering Ratan. We're joined by Bharat Puri, Sanjeev Kapoor, Ambi Parameswaran, and also Yash Kotak. Yash was among the first few founders to actually meet Ratan Tata, corner him, pitch his idea to the company, and then get Ratan's funds in it as well. Yash, tell us about the story of how you all actually managed to get his attention. Thereafter, pitch your idea to the company, to him, and then get his investments.
Right. No, thanks, Mangalam. The loss feels a little personal. It's a very sad day. And whatever we are today, it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for him. The story goes, we are 7 co-founders of this company called Bombay Hemp Company, working with a plant called cannabis. We're making medicines and textiles from it. When we started out, we realized that cannabis as a plant lacked credibility. And we as founders, because we were new into business, we were very young. We were like 20, 21 years old when we started out. We lacked credibility as well. And as a visioning exercise, we said, okay, within the 7 of us, we had a visioning exercise where we said, if we were to get our first investor, who would it be? And all 7 of us, this is back in 2013, right? All 7 of us said Mr. Ratan Tata, incidentally. And we said, okay, guys, we have the same... we want the same person, and we have to now manifest and work towards it. There was an event, this was in the year 2015-16, where Mr. Ratan Tata was speaking, and he was one of the key speakers and was scheduled to be at the event for 3 to 4 hours. So he said, guys, this is our time. It's a ticketed event. We don't come from affluent families. We don't need to make any phone calls. This is how we get to him. And we signed up for the event. 3 of my co-founders ended up being at the event. We have 2 Parsi co-founders, incidentally, Jahan and Dalzad, and Sanwar was the 3rd one. They were at this event, and we said, okay, we have to strategically understand where would Mr. Tata be, because we would not get more than 60 seconds of his time. So we positioned one of the co-founders near the lift, another co-founder near the washroom, assuming that he may want to use the restroom, and one co-founder in the audience with the smartest of questions. And it turns out that Mr. Tata had to use the washroom. He went to the washroom and he finished his business, and Jahan, one of my co-founders, was waiting right there at the washroom with his elevator pitch. We took 60 seconds to communicate the whole thing to him, and Mr. Tata actually, back in the day, rarely anyone knew about hemp and cannabis and its potential, and he knew so much about it. And he said, I know a lot about it. I'd love to speak more to you guys. And the man personifies humility, right? And what he did next points to that. where he removed his business card and with both of his hands, he hands it over. That man needs no introduction. And he gave us his business card and he said, why don't you reach out to my office and we'll take it from there. And it was a 6-month journey of, speaking with him, making him understand, 30-minute meetings going on for 2 hours with him. We just couldn't believe we could get 2 hours of his time. And we got that time with him. And he told to us something that sticks with all of us. He said, this idea makes me feel I was younger. I could have added more to it. You guys don't know the responsibility you all have working with a plant which has a myopic mindset attached to it, but has such big potential. And I think one thing led to the other. That is how we got his investment, and he was our first investor. And it's never been the same. Things have always looked up for us. So yeah, that's how we got him.
Incredible story there, Yash. Thank you for telling it so well. Let's wrap this up with a one-word answer from everyone on the panel. If there was one thing that you would take from Ratan Tata's life and implement in your life, and also give it to everyone else in the future, Bharat, starting with you.
Absolutely simple. Humility.
Humility. Sanjeev.
Compassion.
Passion. Ambi. Compassion. Ambi.
Keep learning.
Keep learning. And Yash, you said responsibility, right?
And integrity, yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking your time out, remembering Ratan. Indeed, the man left a lot of memories, a lot of, learnings for all of us. We will obviously keep honoring his legacy by being the best versions of ourselves for everyone else that we meet, and also take India to the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.